Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be talking about the Bloomburrow commander decks. I'm going to be talking about which one I think you guys should be picking up for certain different things. So, I've kind of ranked them based off of 4 different things. So that way you guys can kind of have an idea on which ones I like the most, which ones you guys might like. I'll give overall which one I think is the winner, and kind of give you a little bit of information about each of them. Before we get into it though, I do want to ask you guys to make sure that you can subscribe, like, share the video around and everything. At the moment, we're at 3,130 subscribers, and I'm trying to hit 3,500 as soon as possible. Then I guess our next big goal is like 10,000, right? Like if I can hit 10,000 subscribers, that would be insane. All that kind of stuff ends up working towards us getting sponsors, getting seen by wizards, getting to do early previews and stuff. I think my dream for the channel is get to preview one of the commander decks when it comes out. I think that's like one of my dreams for this channel. So if you guys could help, that would be amazing. All right, so let's get into it. The first one here we're going to talk about is the Squirreled Away precon. So this is mostly built around tokens. It's got a heavy kind of squirrel theme to the tokens, but it doesn't go super hard into the tokens. Super hard into the squirrels. There's a lot of kind of general, broad-ish kind of tokens in here. A wide variety, whether you've got food, you've got squirrels, you've got a little bit of treasure in there. You've got like, insect tokens, I think at one point. You've got some rats, some spiders, even a bloody goat, because why not? It is very broad in regards to which kind of tokens it relies on. The whole use of these tokens kind of varies. Some of them are used for value for buffing up your creatures and stuff. Other ones are, used for creating more tokens and everything. It's very much about, creating a lot of tokens and then just kind of getting value from them. Primarily based around squirrel tokens and buffing up the squirrel tokens, but everything kind of matters here. So it's a very nice kind of a mix between like a go widey kind of deck and also like a sacrificing your tokens, making use of tokens. The next one is the Peace Offering deck, which is based around Miss Bumbleflower. It is a group hug deck based around buffing your own stuff up with +1/+1 tokens and handing out a lot of card draw. There is a lot of card draw in this deck, both for yourself and giving cards to other people. I believe there's also 2 different cards in here that are essentially you win the game, which is Trescadophile, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but there's 2 different cards in here that are based off of actually just winning the game outright. I think it's one of the enchantments down here. Simic Ascendancy. So you've got a wide variety of actually just winning the games through those, while also kind of handing out favors to people, whether it's through the actual gifting mechanic or whether it's something like Quain, who makes people draw cards, or that kind of thing, where or giving card draw to people. One of the most interesting cards I think is the Bloodroot Apothecary, which is their new one here, which makes it so that each time an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, so that's treasures, clues, blood, and food tokens. I don't think I said food before. They get 2 poison counters, which is another alternate win con. There's actually 3, there's 3 different win cons just straight up in this deck that are not based around you hitting people. Very, very interesting stuff in my opinion. And I think that you guys can kind of see the kind of bias that I'm kind of talking about in this deck already. The next one here is the Animated Army deck. So this is based around Bellow, Bard of Brambles. He animates all of your non-equipment and non-aura enchantments on your turn, turns them all into 4/4 elemental creatures as long as they are mana value 4 or more, that have haste, indestructible, and whenever they deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. It is very, very gruel because, you're based around kind of going in, hitting things with big stuff, whether it's the big stuff that you get from your actual commander or ramping up into like some Calamity Beasts. This one actually has 3 different Calamity Beasts in the base deck: the Evercoat Ursine, the Wild Seer Scouring Moor, and the Pious Swipe Hawk. 3 different Calamity Beasts in this deck, which is really, really interesting. So it's a lot of ramping up into either having big enchantments and big artifacts out, or just ramping into some of these huge creatures that you can then throw at people as well. And I'll talk about a little bit about the stuff later on in regards to that. And then the final one here is the Family Matters deck. So this is based around Zinnia and creating a lot of 1/1 creatures, or, you know, just power 1 creatures. That's through both the Offspring mechanic, which is built into Zinnia, and then also from, you know, just other creatures having offspring, or other creatures creating tokens like this jacked rabbit that goes and, you know, breeds with everyone, or, you know, a lot of different creatures in here that are creating 1 power stuff, or, you know, like the Thopter engineer creating Thopters, and, you know, a lot of different kind of creating tokens and throwing those tokens at things. There's also a lot of stuff in here that is built around like, you know, creating a lot of tokens as well, and then kind of getting use from those, whether it's like a whole bunch of great ETBs from, you know, because of the fact that Zinnia is essentially creating 1/1 clones of your creatures, then you get some great ETBs from here. The one issue that I will say while we're talking about the ETBs and stuff is that it does have a lot of big mana creatures in here, which is going to cause an issue, which we'll talk about. There's, you know, some nice other stuff in here too, like, you know, some interesting enchantments. Murmuration looks really interesting. The Fortune Teller's talent looks very interesting, but doesn't work really well in this deck, to be honest. Before we, you know, go into heavier some of the other stuff, each of these will have multiple different things that are very interesting about them. The face commanders, as you can see here, are borderless. Very nice borderless face commanders there. They also all have a Imagine Creatures version of a Planeswalker. So this Elspeth here, while on Moxfield for some reason at the moment is showing this art for her, it is not going to be this art. It's going to be the art from Bloomburrow Commander. So this one here, if it brings it up, this one here. So, you know, they all have that as a draw for them as well, which is really, really cool. And yeah, the land bases are really decent too. They don't make a use of a huge amount of stuff from the base Bloomburrow set, which is another very interesting thing. Like the Family Matters one doesn't make a huge amount of use from the Offspring mechanic besides the actual commander. Like in regards to the creatures, there's not a huge amount of Offspring creatures there. The Animated Army one isn't using many of the Expend, which is the new thing, which is rewarding you for spending a huge amount of mana. And I can go through and say each of them. I think the one that makes use of it the most is probably the Peace Offering one in regards to the gift mechanic. But, you know, even the Squirreled Away doesn't have a huge amount of the new squirrels. All right, so let's get into the presentation. All right, so I will say that these are all my opinion. Are obviously welcome to disagree. And I encourage you to disagree and to let me know down in the comments if you guys, you know, have played around with them a little bit, if you think that I'm completely off, or if you, you know, have a different opinion to me. That's all really great. Even, you know, commenting down below. I love to be able to talk to you guys about it. So yeah, make sure that you do if you do disagree. All right. So first, talking about reprint value here. So unfortunately, my gold medals are behind me, but you just have to imagine that. That is a gold medal there for the ones on the left. So in regards to reprint value, the Squirreled Away really blows the others out of the water. It's got, you know, Swarm Yard, it's got Saw in Half, and some other really great kind of reprints there. The Animated Army one does have some decent reprints, as well as the Family Matters one. They're not awful in regards to reprints, but they're not too bad. The Peace Offering one is probably the one, in my opinion, that kind of lets the others a little bit down in regards to reprints. There are some decent ones in there, but there's no kind of, you know, thing that really kind of blows the others away. The Squirreled Away one, though, is by and large the best one in regards to reprint value. Now, I don't think you should necessarily buy a precon based off of reprint value. Not these ones, at least. I don't think that there's any in here that you should buy based off the reprint value. The cards that are in it that are reprinted obviously will drop down anyway. There's previous commander sets that I would be like, yes, you should potentially buy this one because of the reprint value. Specifically around like MKM, the reprint value in those decks was crazy great. But overall, I don't think that any of these are insane in regards to reprint value, but they are good. There are definitely some things, especially in, the animated army or the Family Matters one, that I would have seen reprinted a lot better. I would have loved to have seen reprinted, especially the Family Matters one. I think if, Ojatark or Mondrak or Anointed Procession or any of those like big token doublers in white had been reprinted, then we would be having a different conversation about that deck overall. In regard to raw strength, this is how I'm rating them in regards to raw strength. The Squirreled Away one, I think, really is incredibly strong when you compare it to the others. Now, this is obviously, non-upgraded. I think that the Squirreled Away one is the strongest. If you kind of look at once you upgrade them, that's going to be a completely different talking point, which we'll get to in a second. But I think the Squirreled Away one is just generally going to be very strong. The Peace Offering one here, I've got a second, but it's got an asterisk here. I think that the Peace Offering one as an asterisk is purely second because of the fact that you can politic with it very well, which means that it being in second really relies on you being a player that is happy to talk to people and be like, look, I'm going to give you this card, but don't attack me. And then also relies on your pod not being full of people who are just going to betray you anyway. So overall, I think the Peace Offering one can be very strong if you are happy to do that. And because of the fact that it's got alternate win cons, you're not relying on, other ways to defeat people. You can just, if you get 13 cards in your hand and you've got a Triskaphile or whatever it is out, then, which I'm butchering the name of that card, but you get what I mean. The third one here is the Animated Army one. And then the Family Matters one. The Family Matters one, if it had lower cost things that had good ETBs, then I definitely think that it would be a lot higher there. But the ETBs, I think, for the creatures are just a little bit strong to make use of the fact that you then need to pay 2 more to be able to get a second one of those out. Even something as simple as, having another Impact Tremors or something like that would have been great for the deck. War Leader's Call would have been insanely good because it is base power 1 that would have buffed him up. Now, that's not to say that all of these aren't strong in their own ways, and I do think that if you are playing all 4 against each other, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the Squirrel one will destroy everyone in every single time. I think that all of them have a chance to win, which is good. I think that they're not too distant in regards to power, but I do think that, there is quite a distinct kind of power gap between like the Squirreled Away and the Family Matters one. All right. So in regards to upgrade potential, you will notice that this is almost exactly the opposite. Almost exactly the opposite. That's because, for a start, in the Family Matters deck, if you add in a token doubler, token tripler, more ways that when your tokens come out, they deal more damage, or some stronger kind of ETBs that are lower cost, there are so many ways that you can take this deck and make it so strong that I am really excited to see how people build Zinnia and really excited to see how people build that deck. It's a crazy great way. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum here, you've got the Squirreled token one. I do think that you can potentially build this deck really well, but it is going to be, you have to either double down on the squirrels or kind of move away from the squirrels. I think doubling down on the squirrels is the way I'm going to go, and it's the way I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to upgrade the deck. But personally, I just don't think that it has quite as high a ceiling in regards to upgrades as the Family Matters one. Now, the Animated Army one here, this one here, it's actually really disappointing they didn't do this in the base precon. They could have really gone ham with it, right? Added in vehicles. The animation that he does will work on vehicles as long as you haven't crewed them beforehand, which therefore means your vehicles will become 4/4 hasted indestructible things that draw cards for you. Very nice, but they didn't really work on that. Instead, what they've added in was like stuff like Thran Dynamo and, some big artifacts that help ramp you up, which is good, except for that then you need to choose between, do I want to hit someone with this or do I need to tap it for mana? a little bit disappointing because you obviously then don't have that to be able to attack. So even if it had even if Brallo gave them vigilance, that would have been a really great upgrade too. And adding in a way to be able to give vigilance would have been good, but it's not really vigilance within Gruul. I just think that, overall, if you went to upgrade this deck, if you upgrade it into vehicles, there's a crazy amount of stuff you could do with it. Peace Offering, I think, could be upgraded really well, especially if you are someone who's willing to make deals with people and kind of go that way. It's a group hug deck. There's lots of ways to be able to upgrade it and go well. All right, now, as for the most interesting, this is my opinion again. Most interesting is very, very subjective, obviously, but I just think that, the animated army one is just the most interesting because of the fact that you can do vehicles. Vehicles alone makes that... Oh, there actually is one vehicle in the base set, which is the Hamsphere, right? There's just so many ways to be able to make cool vehicles get animated with the animated army one. The Family Matters one, there's really cool ETBs you could potentially look into. As I said, something like War Leader's Call to buff things up and then, also deal that impact tremors thing could go really well as well. Or just go into really cool clones and then also add in the things that make it so that your legendaries don't get sacked, right? Like copy stuff like... I don't know, like the mouse, Sir Arthur in the base set, the Arthur Marigold Knight in the base precon. If you get 2 of those out, would be insane, except for the fact that at the moment with him, you can't do that because you, the offspring mechanic means that they would still both be legendaries. They're still both legendaries, you need to end up sacking one. Instead, if you added in some of the things that make it so you can have multiple legendaries out, ignore the legendaries rule, which you have a lot of those options in red, it would be crazy good. And then, I think that overall, I think that it could be very interesting in a group hug deck, build that very interesting ways. I actually love the kind of secondary theme within this deck, which is the drawing cards theme around, what is it, Mr. Foxglove, I think his name is, or Foxglove, I can't remember if he's Mr. Foxglove or Sir Foxglove, or I forgot his title, sorry. I think that if you have him, you could potentially make a very interesting card draw deck with this, especially because he then allows you to be able to cheat things out, and if you've got there was literally a previous banned the Deep Sea Clue deck that you could potentially combine with this and make a very interesting card draw deck. Maybe that's a video as well if you guys are interested. Do you want me to combine the Deep Sea Clue with this Peace Offering deck to make a mega card draw deck with just those 2 decks? And then, I think that the squirrels could be interesting, but they're still squirrels. I don't know. I just don't think that they have as high ceiling as being interesting as these other ones. All right. Now, again, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Or whatever. I don't want to give you guys exactly which one my favorite is. I mean, unless you want me to, I guess I will. I will tell you if I'm talking about which one my favorite is. My favorite is probably Brallo, and then secondary, I do love the Miss Bumbleflower one. Third, it's probably the Zinnia, and then finally Hazel. I do think that the Hazel one, replacing the commander immediately, makes it a crazy great deck. But that's a whole different video that if you guys want to see, make sure you subscribe and share and all that kind of stuff. Have a great day and goodbye.